So this season at the beginning, I decided I wanted to peak Masters again. Now, honestly, I hadn't hit Masters ever since season 4 or something like that. When essentially, if you were high diamond, you automatically got placed in the Masters the next season. So I thought it was going to be a pretty big challenge. And at the beginning, I feel like this season, it definitely was a big challenge. Getting into the season again, we had Mercy meta, and that in itself was, yeah, let's just say it's a little bit of a pain to deal with. And I got into it. I was playing my different characters, playing Reaper, playing Mercy, trying to fill, see whatever would work. But eventually I decided, you know, I need to pick a character to play this season, to try to get better at this season, and hopefully to reach Masters with this season before my deadline, the date that Dragon Ball FighterZ came out, because I was very excited to play that game. And the hero I decided to play was actually, as the title suggests, D.va. And she worked out really well for me, and today I want to talk about why she worked out so well, at least for me, and why she might be a decent pick for you. Now, I guess one thing I should mention before any of these points is that, yeah, D.va was a meta pick at the time, and yeah, D.va still is probably one of the strongest tanks in the entire game, so you can use that as a good argument to why I did so well with her, and I guess you can always use that as an argument to play the meta characters. But I want to talk about other good things about this character, and just some of the main things I learned about climbing that may not even correlate 100% to D.va. So even if you aren't a person that's interested in D.va, or you just want to learn, you know, what did he do to actually get from Diamond to Master so quickly with such a high win rate, today I'm going to try to help you guys with that. And I guess the place I want to start is by talking about how D.va brings you back to the basics when you're playing this character. And I think that was really important for me, and important for a lot of people when they're getting back into the game. D.va does have some weird gimmicks about her kit, I won't get rid of that, but I think for the most part her kit is pretty basic and will help you get back into the game if you're kind of out of it, or kind of get your mindset back into the general way the game flows. D.va has a decent amount of damage, can dive in if she needs to, can peel for her team if she needs to, has an ultimate that can get some kills, or maybe at least can get some space. She has a bit of burst damage and a bit of, you know, just general shotgun damage. Works okay at close range, can do a little bit of poke at far range, and overall she can kind of do it all half decently, fits in almost every team comp. And I think that's a good place to start with when you're trying to get back into the game and when you're trying to win games as well. With D.va, you don't have to think about super character specific stuff. While she does have that, she does have these combos, those aren't the most important things. Instead, you go back to the basics of positioning. When should I be next to my other tank? When should I be next to the wall? When should I be next to my tank's wall that he's holding up? Where should I be and when should I be there? And oftentimes I feel like when you're especially playing solo tank D.va, this is important, and this is something that you'll get kind of used to more and more. You just have to remember that this applies to D.va and every other character, but where you're standing and when you're there is one of the most important things in this game. And I'd say, especially on D.va, it's much more important than aiming. You can have god tier aiming, but bad positioning, and you're going to be completely useless. And that's why I think D.va is kind of useful, because she teaches you that where you are matters, and when you are there also matters. And that's something I kind of had to keep in mind, because for a while I've been playing Reaper. Essentially with him, you just always stay in the front line, blast the opponents until they die. But with D.va, it is a little bit more complicated, because you have to worry about your teammates, the enemies, positioning, spacing, all that together. Another basic that I actually liked about playing D.va as well was remembering about the ult economy in this game. Charging the enemy ultimates and charging your own team's ultimates is an important factor. If you can block a lot of the enemy team's burst with your defense matrix, your team bursts the enemy team, gets a lot of their ult up, even if you can't get a kill, you could have still won your team that fight or the next fight, because you're going to have a few more ults up. And as well, looking even at your own ultimate, knowing when to use it, knowing when to save it, I think it's just kind of nice playing this character and keeping in mind all the ultimates and how important those things are. And of course, with every character, ultimates are important as well. But I think with D.va, you can spend more time looking about how your character combos with other ultimates, because you kind of have to do that, and thinking about how you can stop the enemies from getting them, because again, if you can get them before the enemies, you're probably going to win that fight. And I guess the final basic I did have to go back into a little bit as well when trying to learn this character, because keep in mind, I played almost no D.va before this season. Like, I think I had less than an hour, and now I only have like 6 or 7, but I already got to Masters with her. But the last thing is that you have to focus on your aiming. With D.va, she is a hitscan type character that you have to aim with. And while it's not always the hardest, if you're playing against a Genji or a Tracer or Doomfist or anybody else with any mobility, getting back into the basics, practicing your aiming, and just being half decent at aiming is gonna give you all you really need. As D.va, you don't have to be that great at any of these things, and I think that's a nice thing about her. Even if you just become slightly better at positioning, you'll see increases in victory. Slightly better at aiming, you'll see increases in victory, or at least your percentage of victories. And that's kind of nice. I feel like as you get better at one thing at D.va, you just start to win more, while as some other characters, it feels like positioning doesn't really matter at all. All you need is a lot better aiming. And on the other coin, sometimes your aiming doesn't really matter at all you need is better positioning, which kind of sucks. But with D.va, just everything meshes together, which I think is nice and a good way to, again, learn exactly what you're doing in a match, and I guess climb as well, because you can just kind of do everything. Now, on a completely different note, I'm going to say that D.va was great to climb with, because, simply put, picking a tank hero allows for essentially any team comp that your teammates pick up to be playable, no matter what. Even if you only have you as D.va, and then one support main, which almost always happens, or at least one person that's willing to fill support, and then 4 DPS mains, you can win that game. And I think that in mind, every single game as I locked in this character and then alt-tabbed and waited for the team comps to show up, that kept me from tilting almost every single round. When I play Reaper, probably my favorite character in the game, I just love to grind hours on him, I always get team comps that just completely suck, and a lot of the times you get in 4 or 5 DPSs and you kind of just think you've lost that game at there, and you get tilted almost immediately. But as D.va, even if you get a bad team comp, there's still a chance for you to win, and I think that's a reason why I also won a lot of matches, because if you're playing DPS only, you're essentially going to throw away quite a few matches, because again, there's just going to be bad team comps and you are going to lose that match. But if you're playing D.va, you aren't really throwing away any matches, because even if you already have 2 tank mains, or even 3, 4 tank actually works okay. So, I mean, keep that in mind when you're doing this, especially in this new meta, it's even a little bit better. And I guess, kind of speaking about dealing damage as D.va and being able to fill as D.va, I think D.va is a great pick to carry with, because she can deal damage. She can get kills. But it's not quite the same as playing as a DPS. Her damage isn't quite as high as a DPS. Her burst takes a little bit longer to come out. And while she does have a lot of it, you need to practice your timing. If you're playing something like Hanzo, you can stay pretty close to the enemy backline, or I guess your own backline, spam a lot of arrows, and hopefully eventually get a kill on somebody or scatter arrow someone, and there you go with that. That's just kind of nice. But with D.va, you have to have good timing. You have to make sure that nobody's there to help protect against the enemy supports. You have to make sure that the enemy supports aren't healing each other, because you usually can't kill one of them when they're healing the other one. You just can't one-shot people as easily, and I think that's kind of nice, because it has to get you into using precise timing. And especially if you want to learn another tank, or even some other supports, I think it's important to know when you can actually go in, one of those opportunities, and when you aren't able to go in. Because with a lot of the DPS, it feels like you can just always go in no matter what. But once you play another class, you're just kind of throwing because you're going in all the time. But playing D.va kind of gets you used to knowing, again, when it is possible for your character to be in there. And I think that can even help sometimes when you go back to playing DPS, because now I know as Reaper, when can I go in there, or when might I kind of be in a little bit too much trouble and I should probably stay out. I guess something kind of connecting to that previous point about D.va and knowing timing is that you could often misplace your timing as this character and not get punished way too much. And honestly, I think that's a good thing about the character. And while it might kind of suck to play against, because, you know, you catch out the D.va and she gets out with just 1 health left because all of her health and all of her tankiness, I think when you're playing D.va and trying to learn her and trying to climb with her from the beginning, it's kind of nice, because playing D.va generally just is kind of forgiving. You can go in, you can learn from your mistakes, you can make a lot of mistakes, you can make a lot of good plays too, and hopefully still sometimes get out of there. And even if you don't, you've at least wasted a lot of the enemy team's time, you've created a lot of space, and I think almost no matter what you do as D.va, it's just kind of forgiving because you're helping your team a little bit, which doesn't always happen with every other character. I think another thing to kind of talk about her being forgiving, which is nice as far as wanting to rank up, is that even if you die, you got that res mechanic, or at least if your mech dies. And also you have a ton of HP and a ton of armor. So what this kind of equates to is a lot more risk that you can take and a lot more chances that you can fail at and still not be punished completely. And I think the thing that this is important to kind of go into is that D.va creates a lot of chances for you to see what works and what doesn't in a ranked game, and you don't have to be way too afraid about it. If you play a lot of these other characters, especially DPS as Tracer, you don't know if you should go in there or not. You probably shouldn't, because you're probably going to die. But with D.va, you can learn from that mistake, and maybe even in that same ranked game, not throw the match. And I think that's how I honestly climbed a lot with her, because even though I'm definitely not the best D.va in the world, not even close, not even that great at all, I could at least learn from my mistakes quickly, bring it into the next team fight, and go on from there. And that's a nice thing about her that I think really did boost my win rate. And the final thing I want to talk about from playing D.va and getting a 75% win rate or higher, I guess, depending on the day, is that she was strong because if the enemy team had a player that was much better than me or much better than my entire team, you could target that player and target that OP hero and shut them down as this character. And I think that's something important you might want to learn from D.va that can apply to a lot of characters. But with D.va, it's the easiest thing to learn on this character. If they have an amazing Widowmaker or an amazing Tracer or an amazing Genji or something, you can either stay next to your team and just peel for them against the Tracer and against the Genji, block all of their damage with your defense matrix, shift them around so they can't get kills, and you're going to be saving your team. And as well, if they have a Widowmaker, you can try to walk around the corners and then shift up right next to the Widowmaker, boost her in the face, hit her with the rockets, shoot her, melee her, and hopefully you're going to be able to kill her. Or at least if you can't, you're pushing her off her station and she can't pop off as much anymore because she has a bad position now. I think that's an important thing to learn from this character, that if you can shut down the enemies that are great, you can let your okay teammates actually outperform the enemies that are much better than them. And that can help you win a lot of games. Just making the games easier for your teammates will oftentimes increase your win rate. That's something you might want to remember that applies to D.va, applies to Doomfist, applies to Genji, applies to even Ana, Moira, a lot of different characters. If you can help your team shut down the enemies, you can win games, even more than just getting a lot of kills on the enemies. I think that's something you guys should keep in mind. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say about this today, about how I got around a 75% or higher win rate with D.va. And I feel like she is a fun character, an enjoyable character. And I feel like if you want to learn this character, she's definitely a good pick. A lot of people are playing her right now, though, so do kind of expect that some games you might not be able to pick her unless you get good at insta-locking. And I guess another character you could try to pick other than D.va is like Roadhog or Zarya, because they are somewhat similar in the basics, especially Zarya. But D.va, I think, is especially a good character to go from Diamond to Masters with. Above that, I can't really say. I've never been much higher than that. And unfortunately, I stopped playing ranked the second I got Masters because Dragon Ball FighterZ came out, and I literally just spammed that ever since then. But now I'm getting back into the ranked end. I guess I'll have to climb again from like mid-diamond to Masters, and hopefully a little bit past that. But I guess I'll tell you guys about that in the future. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, of course, as always, leave a like, press the comment if you have a comment down below, or press the subscribe button. And as always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.